Princess Zarathis stood at the massive viewing window of the space station Concordia, watching ships from both fleets maintain their careful distance. Her purple skin seemed to glow in the starlight, and her forearms moved gracefully as she adjusted her formal diplomatic robes. The war was over, but trust would take much longer to build. 7 years of fighting had ended 3 months ago when a single human soldier led an attack that destroyed the heart of the Velterran space fleet. The humans called him the Ghost of Kepler 442, and his name was spoken with fear throughout her empire. No one knew his real identity. The humans kept their war hero hidden behind layers of security and classified files. The princess turned away from the window as her aide approached. Captain Mortex was a veteran soldier whose scales bore scars from human weapons. He had fought in 12 battles before the final defeat. "Your Highness," he said, bowing his head, "the human delegation has arrived. They request to begin talks within the hour." Zarathis nodded. "Have you reviewed their files?" "Yes, Princess. Most information about their military leaders is blocked. They are very secretive about their war strategies and the people who created them." Mortex handed her a datapad. "This is what we know about their negotiation team." She scrolled through the profiles. The human diplomats looked ordinary enough. Their leader, Ambassador Sarah Mitchell, had kind eyes and gray hair. The military advisor's photo was heavily edited, showing only his eyes and forehead. Something about those eyes seemed familiar, but she could not place why. "They are being very careful," she murmured. "Humans always are, Princess. That is why they won." The statement stung because it was true. Her people had expected the war to last maybe 2 years. The Velterran Empire had superior technology, larger ships, and a proud military tradition going back thousands of years. Humans were newcomers to space, barely 3 centuries old as a spacefaring species. But the humans had something her people did not expect. They adapted to everything. When Velterran ships proved stronger, humans learned to fight in groups. When Velterran weapons were more powerful, humans became experts at hiding and surprise attacks. When Velterran honor demanded direct confrontation, humans disappeared like smoke and struck from unexpected directions. The Ghost of Kepler 442 had been the perfect example of human warfare. He appeared where he should not be, struck where defenses were weakest, and vanished before retaliation could come. His final attack had been brilliant and terrible. While the main Velterran fleet prepared for a massive battle, he led a small force through an asteroid field that everyone thought was impossible to navigate. They destroyed the command ships before anyone realized the danger. A soft chime indicated the human delegation was ready to meet. Zarathis straightened her robes and walked toward the conference room. Her father, Emperor Thainwes, had chosen her for these talks because she was known for being calm and intelligent. What he did not know was that she had always been curious about humans. The conference room was designed to be neutral, with furniture that could accommodate both species. The humans were already seated when she entered. Ambassador Mitchell stood and offered a slight bow, which Zarathis returned. "Your Highness, thank you for coming. I hope we can find a path to lasting peace." "That is my hope as well, Ambassador Mitchell." As they took their seats, Zarathis noticed the human bodyguard standing against the wall. He was completely still, but his eyes constantly moved, watching everything. Something about the way he stood reminded her of someone, but the memory was too old and faint to grasp. "Before we begin," Ambassador Mitchell said, "I want to acknowledge the losses on both sides. This war cost too many lives." "Agreed," Zarathis replied. "My people honor the brave dead, human and Velterran alike." The first session focused on basic agreements, prisoner exchanges, medical aid for damaged worlds, and communication protocols. The humans were professional but not weak. They spoke of cooperation while their fleet maintained perfect defensive positions outside the station. During a break, Zarathis studied the human delegation more carefully. Their confidence surprised her. She had expected broken people begging for mercy, but these humans acted like equals negotiating with equals. Perhaps that was another reason they had won. The bodyguard caught her attention again. When a service robot malfunctioned and began sparking near the conference table, he moved with incredible speed. In 3 quick motions, he had shut down the robot and cleared the area. His movements were precise and graceful, like a dancer who had trained in combat. "Impressive reflexes," she commented to Ambassador Mitchell. Colonel Marcus is one of our best, the ambassador replied, then seemed to realize she had said more than intended. Marcus. The name hit Zarathis like a physical blow. She kept her face calm, but her mind raced. Could it be the same Marcus? The human boy she had known 15 years ago on her father's embassy station. The memory came flooding back. She had been lonely, the only child in the diplomatic quarter. Most adults treated her with formal respect that felt like a wall. Then she met Marcus Chen, the son of a human engineer working on the station. He was 12 years old, the same age as her, and he treated her like a normal person instead of a princess. They had become friends despite the disapproval of both their peoples. Marcus taught her human games and told her stories about Earth. She shared Velteran legends and showed him how her people's technology worked. For 6 months they met secretly in the unused sections of the station. Then her father discovered their friendship. Emperor Thainwis was furious that his daughter would associate with humans, whom he considered an inferior species. Marcus and his family were removed from the station within hours. Zarathis never saw him again. She looked at the bodyguard again, trying to see past the scars and hardened features. The height was right. The way he moved his hands when thinking matched her memory. But this man was a soldier marked by years of war. Could the gentle boy she remembered have become this? The afternoon session dealt with trade agreements and border controls. Zarathis found herself watching the bodyguard instead of listening to the talks. Several times she noticed him tap his fingers in a specific rhythm when he was thinking. She knew that rhythm. Marcus used to tap it when they played strategy games together. When the formal talks ended for the day, she made a decision. As the delegations prepared to leave, she approached Ambassador Mitchell. I would like to walk through the station's observation deck before returning to my quarters. Would it be possible for one of your security people to accompany me? The neutral zone makes me nervous. Of course, Your Highness. Colonel Marcus can escort you. Perfect. As they walked toward the observation deck, Zarathis felt her hearts beating faster. She had 4 hearts like all her people, and right now they were all racing. The observation deck was empty except for them. Stars filled the huge windows and the lights of both fleets dotted the darkness. They stood in silence for several minutes. Finally, she decided to test her suspicion. In the ancient human language Marcus had taught her long ago, she whispered, "The stars are beautiful, but friendship shines brighter." The man beside her froze completely. Slowly, he turned to look at her. When their eyes met, she saw past the scars and the years to recognize the boy who had been her first real friend. "Hello, Zara," Marcus Chen said quietly. "It has been a long time." Marcus Chen stood perfectly still, his face showing no emotion. Years of military training had taught him to control his expressions, but Zarathis could see the recognition in his eyes. Her childhood friend had grown into someone she barely recognized. "You look different," she said softly. "War changes people." His voice was deeper now, rougher. "You look exactly the same. Purple skin, 4 arms, and those golden eyes that always saw too much." They stood in awkward silence watching the stars. 15 years had passed since they were children playing games in the hidden corners of her father's space station. Now they were on opposite sides of a war that had killed millions. "I tried to find you," Zarathis said. "After father sent you away, I searched the embassy records. Everything about your family was erased." Marcus nodded slowly. "Your father was very thorough. He made sure we disappeared completely." She remembered that terrible day clearly. She had been 14. Old enough to understand politics, but too young to fight them. Her father had discovered their friendship when he found human books in her room, gifts that Marcus had given her. Emperor Thainwis had been furious. "Humans are beneath us," he had shouted. "They are clever animals, nothing more. My daughter will not disgrace herself with such associations." Within 6 hours, Marcus and his family were gone. The official story was that his father's engineering contract had ended early. Zarathis knew the truth. They had been exiled for the crime of befriending the wrong person. "Where did you go?" she asked. "A frontier colony called Haven's Rest. It was supposed to be temporary until my father found new work." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We were still there when the war started." Zarathis felt ice in her stomach. Haven's Rest was one of the first human colonies attacked when fighting began. Velteran forces had destroyed it completely as a show of power. "Marcus, I am so sorry. I did not know. That my home was target number 3 on your empire's attack list?" His voice was calm, but she could hear the anger underneath. Haven's Rest had no military value. 500,000 people lived there. Farmers, teachers, children. Your people killed them all to send a message. The weight of his words hit her like a physical blow. She had seen the military reports, cold numbers, and tactical assessments. She had never thought about the human faces behind those statistics. My parents died in the first bombing run. Marcus continued. I was 18, working in the orbital shipyard when the Veltaran fleet arrived. I watched your ships turn my world into ash. Zarathus wanted to say something, but what words could possibly matter? Her people had destroyed his life, killed his family, erased his home. The happy boy she remembered was gone, replaced by this scarred soldier who had learned to fight back. The rescue ships found about 3,000 survivors scattered across the system, Marcus said. Most were children. The adults had died protecting them. What did you do? What humans always do. We adapted. He turned to look at her directly. I joined the military the day after my 19th birthday. I was good at it. Very good. She studied his face, looking for traces of the boy she had known. Marcus had always been smart, able to solve puzzles and think ahead in their games. He understood how Veltaran society worked because she had explained it to him during their long conversations. You became the ghost of Kepler 442, she said, among other things. The casualness of his admission shocked her. This quiet man standing beside her was the legendary warrior who had terrified her people's greatest generals. Every Veltaran officer knew stories about the ghost. How he appeared where sensors said no one could be. How he turned their own tactics against them. How he always stayed one step ahead of their best strategies. How did you know? Marcus asked. The way you move. The way you think. I remembered. She gestured toward the stars. And you always understood us too well. Our tactics, our honor codes, our weaknesses. You learned all of that from me when we were children. Marcus nodded slowly. You taught me that Veltaran commanders would rather die than retreat. That your officers follow orders exactly, even when those orders are stupid. That your people value predictable honor over practical victory. Each word was like a knife. She had shared those details innocently, proud of her people's traditions. Marcus had turned that knowledge into weapons that destroyed her empire's fleets. Every battle plan I wrote used something you taught me, he continued. When I needed to predict what your admirals would do, I remembered our conversations. When I needed to understand Veltaran psychology, I thought about your stories. So you used our friendship against us. I used everything I could to stop a war your people started. His voice grew harder. Haven's Rest was not the only colony your empire destroyed. Millions of humans died because your father decided we were beneath you. They stood in silence again. Zarathus felt the weight of history between them. All the choices and chances that had led to this moment. Her father's prejudice had created the very enemy that destroyed him. The irony is perfect, she said quietly. Father exiled you because he thought humans were inferior. You proved him wrong by defeating our entire military. I proved that underestimating people is always a mistake. She looked at him more carefully now, seeing the man he had become. The scars on his hands told stories of combat. His eyes moved constantly, checking exits and potential threats. Every muscle in his body was ready for violence even during a peaceful conversation. Are you here to kill me? She asked. Marcus looked surprised. Why would I do that? Revenge. I am the daughter of the emperor who destroyed your family. You were a child. Children are not responsible for their parents' crimes. He was quiet for a moment. Besides, killing you would not bring back Haven's Rest. His words carried a sadness that she recognized. This was not the voice of a man seeking vengeance. This was someone who had seen too much death and wanted it to stop. What do you want, Marcus? Peace. Real peace, not just a temporary ceasefire. He turned to face her completely. These negotiations matter, Zara. If they fail, the fighting will start again. More worlds will burn. More families will die. She heard the urgency in his voice and understood. Marcus had not become a monster despite everything that happened to him. He had become a protector, someone willing to fight war so that others would not have to. I want peace too, she said. But your father is not here. You are. Marcus stepped closer. You have influence with your delegation. You can help make this work. Zarathus thought about the political situation back home. Her empire was defeated but not destroyed. Many Veltaran leaders wanted to rebuild their fleets and try again. They believed the humans had won through luck and trickery, not genuine superiority. There are those among my people who think this defeat was temporary. she admitted. It was not. Marcus's voice was absolutely certain. Humans will never be caught unprepared again. If fighting starts again, it will not end until your empire is completely destroyed. The cold certainty in his words chilled her. This was not a threat. It was a prediction from someone who understood both species better than almost anyone alive. Help me prevent that, Marcus said. Help me make sure no more children grow up watching their worlds burn. Standing there among the stars, looking at her childhood friend who had become her people's greatest enemy, and now offered to be their salvation, Zarathus made her choice. Tell me what you need me to do. Over the next 3 days, Marcus and Zarathus met secretly during breaks in the negotiations. They found quiet corners of the station where they could talk without being overheard. Each conversation revealed more about how much they had both changed. Marcus showed her tactical recordings from the war, but not to boast about his victories. He wanted her to understand what human warfare really looked like when they fought for survival. Watch this battle at Centauri Station, he said, activating a holographic display. Your admiral had 3 times as many ships as we did. Zarathus watched the recording play out. The Veltaran fleet approached in perfect formation, exactly as their military doctrine required. The human ships seemed to scatter in panic, running in different directions. Admiral Cathvar thought you were retreating, she said. We were, sort of. Marcus pointed to the display. But look at where each group went. As the recording continued, she saw the pattern. The human ships had not fled randomly. They had positioned themselves around the system like hunters surrounding prey. When the Veltaran fleet reached the station, they found themselves in a trap. You used our expectations against us, she realized. Your people fight with honor. Straight lines, direct attacks, clear objectives. Humans fight to win. Marcus paused the recording. When someone is trying to exterminate your species, honor becomes less important than survival. The battle ended with the Veltaran fleet destroyed and Admiral Cathvar dead. Zarathus had known him personally. He was a good man who followed the traditional ways of warfare that had served their empire for centuries. He never had a chance, she said quietly. None of your commanders did. They were fighting the last war while we were inventing a new one. Marcus showed her more recordings. Ambushes in asteroid fields, surprise attacks from hidden bases, coordinated strikes that appeared from nowhere. Human tactics broke every rule of civilized warfare that both species had followed for generations. This is why your people fear us, Marcus explained. We do not fight the way you expect enemies to fight. You fight like the stories of ancient Earth predators, Zarathus said. Patient, clever, always hunting. Earth is a dangerous world. Humans survived because we learned to be more dangerous than anything that wanted to eat us. She began to understand why the war had ended so decisively. Her people had superior technology and larger fleets, but they fought according to rules that humans had never agreed to follow. Every Veltaran advantage had been turned into a weakness. Show me Kepler 442, she requested. Marcus hesitated. That battle was personal for me. Because of Haven's Rest? Because it was where I finally had a chance to face the fleet that destroyed my home. His fingers moved over the controls, bringing up the final battle of the war. The recording showed the main Veltaran fleet preparing for what should have been their greatest victory. They had assembled over 400 ships, the largest space armada in their empire's history. Intelligence reports said the humans were gathering their remaining forces for a desperate last stand. Your father commanded that fleet personally, Marcus said. Zarathus nodded. Emperor Thainwis had wanted to end the war with one crushing blow that would break human resistance forever. He had taken every available ship and headed for Kepler 442, where the humans had been building their largest military base. He expected to find your entire fleet waiting for him, she said. He found exactly what he expected to find, except it was not real. The recording showed the moment when her father's fleet arrived at Kepler 442. They found a massive human armada in perfect defensive formation, just as their spies had reported. The Emperor ordered an immediate attack, confident that superior numbers would bring victory. Watch the asteroid field, Marcus said quietly. Zarathus focused on the edge of the system, where chunks of rock drifted in complicated patterns. The asteroids seemed normal at first, but as the battle began, some of them started moving in ways that asteroids should not move. Those are ships, she breathed. Cloaked ships with fake asteroid shells. We spent 6 months building them and getting them into position. Marcus's voice was calm, but she could hear the satisfaction underneath. Your father was so focused on the obvious target that he never noticed the real threat. The hidden fleet struck from behind, while her father's ships were engaged with the decoy force. In 20 minutes, the pride of the Veltaran Empire was burning wreckage. Emperor Thainwis had survived only because his flagship retreated when defeat became obvious. Brilliant, Zarathis admitted. Completely dishonorable by our standards, but brilliant. War is not about honor. It is about ending the fighting before more people die. She studied Marcus's face as he watched the recording. This battle had made him a legend among humans and a nightmare among her people. But she saw no joy in his expression, only tired satisfaction that a job had been finished. "Do you regret any of it?" she asked. "I regret that it was necessary." He turned off the display. "Every ship I destroyed had people inside. Feltaran people with families and hopes and dreams. I remember that." His words surprised her. Most military leaders she knew talked about enemy casualties as numbers on reports. Marcus spoke about them as individual lives that had been lost. "But you did what you had to do," she said. "I did what humans always do when someone tries to destroy us. I made sure they could never try again." They talked for hours about the war, but also about smaller things. Marcus told her about human culture and how it had changed during the fighting. Zarathis shared stories about her people's reaction to defeat and the political struggles happening back home. Slowly, she began to see traces of the boy she had known. When Marcus smiled, which was rare, his eyes lit up the same way they had 15 years ago. When he explained complex ideas, he still used hand gestures to help make his points clear. "Do you remember the game we used to play?" she asked during one of their meetings. "The one where we pretended to be explorers discovering new worlds?" "Star hunters," Marcus said immediately. "You always wanted to find planets with purple oceans, and you wanted to find worlds where the trees grew upside down." For a moment, they were just two friends remembering happier times. Then reality returned, bringing with it the weight of everything that had happened since. "I missed you," Zarathis said quietly. "After you left, I had no real friends. Everyone treated me like a princess first and a person second. I missed you too. Even during the war, I sometimes wondered what you were doing. Learning to be a diplomat. Learning to smile at people I did not like and make polite conversation about things that bored me." Marcus laughed, a sound she had not heard since they were children. "That sounds terrible." It was. "I would have preferred to be a soldier. But princesses are not allowed to fight battles. You are fighting one now," Marcus pointed out. "These negotiations are the most important battle either of our species will ever fight." She looked at him with new understanding. Marcus had not become a soldier because he loved war. He had become a soldier because war was the only way to protect the things he cared about. Now he was asking her to be the same kind of protector, but with words instead of weapons. "The talks are not going well," she admitted. "My delegation thinks your people should be grateful for mercy. They do not understand that you won. Some humans want revenge too. They remember the colonies your empire destroyed. So how do we make peace between people who hate each other?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment thinking. When he spoke, his voice carried the same careful planning she remembered from their childhood games. "We remind them that the alternative is worse, much worse. And what do you mean? There are things about this war that neither side knows. Secrets that could destroy any chance of peace if they come out the wrong way." Marcus looked troubled, as if he was debating whether to tell her something important. "What kind of secrets?" Zarathis asked. "The kind that could start the fighting again, but this time with no possibility of mercy for anyone." Marcus led Zarathis to a secure briefing room that he had reserved under his military clearance. The walls were soundproof and protected against electronic surveillance. Whatever he wanted to show her required absolute secrecy. "What I'm about to tell you could destroy both our species if it becomes public knowledge," he said seriously. "Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Zarathis felt fear creep up her spine, but she nodded. "Show me." Marcus activated a holographic display that showed a star map of the galaxy. Most of it was familiar territory, but he zoomed in on a region far beyond both human and Veltaran space. 6 months ago, our deep space sensors detected something approaching from outside the galaxy, he began. Long-range analysis suggests it is a fleet of ships unlike anything either of our species has ever built. The display showed fuzzy images of massive vessels, each one larger than the biggest space stations. Their design was completely alien, with curved surfaces and energy patterns that did not match any known technology. "Who are they?" Zarathis asked. We do not know. They have not responded to any communication attempts. But their trajectory will bring them to this part of the galaxy within 2 years. She studied the images more carefully. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, maintaining exact distances from each other. Their energy signatures were enormous, suggesting technology far beyond what humans or Velterrans possessed. How many ships? Our best estimate is over 3,000 vessels. Each one appears to be the size of a moon. The numbers hit her like a physical blow. The entire Veltaran Empire at its peak had possessed fewer than 800 capital ships. The human fleet was smaller but more advanced. Against 3,000 moon-sized vessels, both species combined would be hopelessly outmatched. Does my father know about this? She asked. No. We detected them using sensor networks built during the war. Your people do not have equipment capable of seeing that far into deep space. Marcus brought up another display showing detailed scans of one alien vessel. The images revealed weapon systems that defied understanding, and hull materials that seemed to absorb energy, rather than reflect it. Our scientists estimate that a single one of these ships could destroy an entire star system, he said, quietly. Zarathis felt the room spin around her. Everything they had been fighting about suddenly seemed pointless. Territory disputes, trade agreements, and war reparations meant nothing. If both species would be extinct in 2 years, this is why you want peace so badly, she realized. Humans and Veltarans fighting each other is suicide when something like this is coming. We need to combine our technologies and resources if we want any chance of survival. She looked at the alien fleet again, trying to comprehend the scale of the threat. Have you tried to calculate what kind of defense would be possible? Yes, the results are not encouraging. Marcus brought up tactical projections showing various battle scenarios. Working separately, humans have a 0% chance of survival. Veltarans have a 0% chance of survival. Working together, we might achieve a 2% chance of survival. 2%? If we combine human tactical innovation with Veltaran industrial capacity, if we share all our technologies completely, if we build the largest fleet in galactic history, if we get very lucky. Marcus paused. 2% is better than 0. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. These negotiations were not just about ending a war. They were about giving both species a tiny chance to continue existing. How long have you known? She asked. I was briefed 3 days before coming to this station. The human government decided that peace talks were our highest priority. Marcus looked tired. I volunteered to be part of the delegation because I knew you would be here. You planned this. Our meetings, our conversations. I hoped that our old friendship might help you understand the situation, but everything we have shared has been genuine, Zara. I did miss you. I am glad to see you alive and well. She believed him. Despite all the manipulation and secrets, Marcus was still the person she had known as a child. He was just carrying burdens now that no child should ever have to bear. What exactly do you need from me? Help convince your delegation that cooperation is not weakness. Help them understand that sharing technology and resources is the only way either species survives. That will be difficult. Veltaran pride does not bend easily. I know, but you have influence that others do not. You are the Emperor's daughter, but you are also known for being practical and intelligent. Marcus brought up files showing the current state of the peace negotiations. Both sides were making small compromises on minor issues, but the major questions remained unsolved. Humans wanted access to Veltaran manufacturing technology. Veltarans wanted guarantees that humans would not attack again. We are arguing about meaningless things while something worse than both our nightmares approaches, Zarathis said. Exactly. We need to change the entire focus of these talks. But if we reveal the alien threat now, both sides might panic. Some of my people would want to surrender immediately. Some of yours would want to attack us first to eliminate competition for resources. Marcus nodded grimly. That is why this information must be handled very carefully. We need to build trust first, then gradually introduce the larger picture. They spent the next hour discussing strategies for steering the negotiations toward cooperation. Marcus had detailed plans for sharing specific technologies that would benefit both species immediately. Zarathis knew which Veltaran leaders would be most receptive to working with humans. There is another problem, she said eventually. My father, what about him? Emperor Thainwis did not send me here to make peace. He sent me here to buy time while he rebuilds the fleet. Marcus went very still. Explain. The defeat at Kepler 442 was not as complete as you think. Father saved about 30 ships by retreating early. He has been gathering resources from across the Empire to build more vessels. How many more? Maybe 200 ships within 6 months. Not enough to defeat you, but enough to cause serious damage. Marcus was quiet for a long time, processing this information. When he spoke, his voice carried the cold certainty that had made him such an effective military commander. If your father attacks again, humans will not show mercy. We will destroy every Veltaran ship, station, and colony until your species surrenders unconditionally. I know. That is why I am here. I hope to prevent that outcome. But your father's plans change everything. If he is preparing for another war, these negotiations are meaningless. Zarathis felt the future slipping away from them. The alien threat, her father's ambitions, and the hatred between their species were combining into a perfect disaster that would destroy everyone. Unless we stop him, she said. How? I do not know yet, but there must be a way. Marcus studied her face carefully. Are you willing to betray your own father to save both our species? The question hung in the air between them like a weapon. Everything came down to this choice: loyalty to family or loyalty to a larger cause, duty to her people as they were, or duty to what they needed to become. Zarathis thought about the alien fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. She thought about the humans who had shown mercy to Veltaran prisoners when they could have chosen revenge. She thought about Marcus, who had every reason to hate her people but still worked for peace. If it means preventing the extinction of both humans and Veltarans, she said finally, then yes, I will betray my father. Marcus reached out and took one of her 4 hands in both of his. The gesture was simple, but it carried the weight of renewed friendship and shared purpose. Then we have work to do. 3 days later, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Zarathis was in her quarters when Captain Mortex burst through the door without announcement. Princess, we must leave immediately. The Emperor's fleet has arrived. She felt her heart sink. Her father had come personally, which meant he was planning something dramatic. How many ships? 47 vessels, including the Imperial Dreadnought. He demands that all negotiations stop and that you return to the flagship immediately. Zarathis looked out her window and saw the Veltaran fleet taking aggressive positions around the station. They had not opened fire, but their weapons were charged and ready. The human ships were responding by forming their own battle lines. Tell my father I will come aboard in 1 hour, she said. Princess, he ordered me to bring you now. 1 hour, Captain. I have diplomatic responsibilities to finish first. Mortex looked unhappy but nodded and left. Zarathis immediately contacted Marcus through their secret communication channel. My father is here. This is not good, I know. Our sensors detected his fleet 3 hours ago. What is his plan? I do not know, but he brought enough ships to start a fight. We need to meet immediately. 20 minutes later, they gathered in the same secure briefing room they had used before. Marcus was not alone this time. Ambassador Mitchell was with him, along with a woman Zarathis did not recognize. Princess, this is Admiral Sarah Chen, Marcus said, my commanding officer and the leader of our fleet. Zarathis looked at the older woman with surprise. Chen, are you related? Marcus is my nephew, Admiral Chen said simply. We thought you should know the full truth before this situation gets worse. The family connection explained much about Marcus's rapid promotion through human military ranks. But it also meant that the destruction of Haven's Rest had been personal for more than just Marcus. Your father killed my brother and his wife, Admiral Chen continued, but that does not matter now. What matters is preventing another war that will destroy both our species. What do you know about my father's intentions? Zarathis asked. Ambassador Mitchell activated a holographic display showing intercepted communications. We have been monitoring Veltaran military channels. Your father is not here to negotiate. He plans to take you back and use some kind of secret weapon against our colonies. The display showed technical specifications for something called a Starkiller weapon. Zarathis read the data with growing horror. It was a device that could cause a star to collapse into a black hole, destroying everything in the entire solar system. This is impossible, she breathed. Veltaran science cannot build such things. According to our intelligence, your father has been working with a third party, Marcus said. Someone has been providing advanced technology in exchange for future considerations. More data appeared on the display, showing alien symbols and technology signatures that matched the approaching fleet from outside the galaxy. The aliens, Zarathus realized. Father has made contact with them. It appears so. The question is what they want in return. Admiral Chen brought up new images showing construction activity in a remote Veltaran system. Massive structures were being built using technology that neither species possessed. The scale was enormous, suggesting preparation for something far beyond normal warfare. We think your father has agreed to help them prepare for invasion, Ambassador Mitchell said. In exchange, they gave him weapons to use against us. Zarathus felt sick. Her father's pride and hatred had led him to ally with the very force that would destroy both human and Veltaran civilization. He was so focused on defeating humans that he could not see the larger threat. If he uses that weapon, it will be seen as an act of genocide, she said. Humans will respond with total war. Yes, Admiral Chen said simply. We will destroy every Veltaran world rather than allow star-killing weapons to be used against us. And while our species are busy exterminating each other, the real enemy will arrive to find empty space where two civilizations used to be, Marcus added. The trap was perfect. The aliens had manipulated her father into starting a war that would eliminate both potential opponents before the invasion began. Emperor Thainwis thought he was gaining powerful allies, but he was actually doing their advance work for them. I have to stop him, Zarathus said. How? Ambassador Mitchell asked. He has 47 ships and a weapon that can destroy solar systems. By telling him the truth about his alien allies. Marcus shook his head. He will not believe you. And even if he does, he might decide to use the weapon anyway rather than admit he was wrong. Then I will have to make him believe me. She explained her plan quickly. It was dangerous and would probably cost her everything, but it was the only way to prevent disaster. The others listened with growing concern. Princess, if you do this, there is no going back, Admiral Chen said. Your father will consider you a traitor. Better a living traitor than a dead princess on an extinct world. 1 hour later, Zarathus transported to her father's flagship. Emperor Thainwis was waiting in the main conference room, surrounded by his senior military officers. His 4 eyes burned with the righteous anger that had driven him to war. Daughter, I'm disappointed. These negotiations have continued far too long. Humans deserve punishment, not partnership. Father, we need to talk privately. There is nothing to discuss. You will witness the first test of our new weapon, then return home while I finish this war properly. Zarathus looked around the room at the assembled officers. Most of them were loyal soldiers who followed orders without question, but a few looked uncomfortable with the situation. Before you use your new weapon, I have information you need to hear. What information could possibly change my mind? Information about your alien allies and what they really want. Emperor Thainwis went very still. The fact that she knew about the aliens clearly surprised him. Guards, clear the room, he ordered. When they were alone, Zarathus told him everything. The approaching alien fleet, the true purpose of the Star Killer weapon and the manipulation that had led him to this point. She showed him the evidence that Marcus had provided, hoping that logic would overcome pride. Her father listened in silence, his expression growing darker with each revelation. You have been talking to humans, he said when she finished. I have been talking to someone who was once my friend, someone who helped me understand the truth. Marcus Chen, the ghost of Kepler 442. Emperor Thainwis smiled coldly. Yes, I know about your childhood friendship. I know he has been manipulating you just as he manipulated our military strategies. Father, he is trying to save both our species. He is trying to save himself. Humans are clever liars, daughter. They will say anything to avoid the punishment they deserve. Zarathus realized that her father would never listen to reason. His hatred of humans had become more important to him than the survival of his own people. Then I am sorry for what I must do. She activated a hidden communication device and transmitted a signal to the human fleet. Within seconds, Marcus's voice filled the room. Emperor Thainwis, this is Colonel Marcus Chen. I am sending you real-time sensor data showing the alien fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. Look at the evidence, then decide if destroying humans is worth dooming your own species. Holographic displays around the room activated, showing the massive alien armada and their projected arrival time. The images were undeniable proof that a greater threat existed. Emperor Thainwis stared at the displays for a long moment, then laughed bitterly. Clever, daughter. Very clever, but it changes nothing. Father, please. I would rather die fighting humans than live as a slave to aliens. At least humans can be beaten. He moved toward the weapon controls, intending to fire the Starkiller at the nearest human colony. Zarathis knew she had only seconds to act. She triggered the emergency beacon that Marcus had given her. The room filled with transport light as human soldiers materialized around them. Marcus appeared directly beside the weapon controls, his hand on the shutdown switch. "I am sorry it came to this," he said to Emperor Thainwis. "As am I," the Emperor replied, drawing his ceremonial sword. The fight was brief. Marcus was younger, faster, and trained in combat that Velterran honor traditions could not match. When it ended, Emperor Thainwis lay unconscious on the floor. "Is he alive?" Zarathis asked. "Yes, but his war is over." Marcus disabled the Starkiller weapon while his soldiers secured the bridge. Through the windows, Zarathis could see human and Veltaran ships moving into formation together instead of fighting each other. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we prepare for the real war. The one that will determine whether any of us survive the next 2 years." Marcus turned to face her, and she saw the boy she had known looking out through the eyes of the man he had become. "We have work to do, Princess. Both our species need to learn how to fight as one people instead of 2 enemies. And if we cannot learn, then the aliens will find empty space when they arrive, and your father's hatred will have accomplished exactly what they wanted." Zarathis looked out at the combined fleet and made a silent promise. Her people and the humans would survive. They would find a way to work together. They would prove that friendship could be stronger than hatred.